Welcome back, guys and gals. Matty back again. Today we are going to be talking more backpacking gear, and I know what you guys are thinking, surprise surprise, a backpacking YouTuber talking backpacking gear. But today we are going to talk about some gear that I think often gets overlooked. To me, the gear that I'm going to talk about today is essential gear that I think everybody should look at adding to their backpacking kit for the upcoming 2021 backpacking season. A lot of this gear is very lightweight. It's not going to add a lot of weight, and it's not going to add a lot of cost to your backpacking kit. And like I said before, this is gear that often gets overlooked. And I get asked all the time, what is some gear that you have in your kit that a lot of people overlook and don't think about? So I thought we'd make a video talking about some gear that I think is often overlooked and I think everybody should have in their backpacking kit. And the very first piece of gear that we're going to talk about is actually a new gear addition for me to my 2021 backpacking loadout. And it's an addition to this guy here. Now this is, for lack of a better term, my shit kit. I just keep my toilet paper and a lighter in a simple Ziploc freezer bag. Now the reason I carry a lighter in my shit kit with my toilet paper, a lot of the areas that I backpack in, I'm allowed to have fires. And if I can, if it's practical to do so, I burn my toilet paper after using it. And with saying that, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making out on trail is thinking that they can bury their toilet paper. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Do not bury your toilet paper if you're out in the backcountry. If I'm hiking in areas where I can't bury my toilet paper, I carry an extra Ziploc freezer bag in this little kit here, and I just bag up my toilet paper and dispose of it when I get home, when I get off trail. But the addition that I'm adding to the shit kit, and I think is something that everybody should look at getting, is one of these guys here. Now going into the 2021 backpacking season, I will be adding a deuce of spades trowel to my backpacking loadout. For years, I hiked without carrying a shit shovel or a little trowel to bury my poop when I'm out in the backcountry. I've always just found a stick or used my trekking pole. But this past summer was a huge eye-opener to me. Not only did I get the opportunity to hike with a couple people who actually carried these deuce of spades trowels, but I also saw the evidence of so many people out in the backcountry not doing their part and not properly burying their human waste when they're out on the trail. And if you guys watch any of my trip videos, you guys probably heard me rant and rave about it so many times. I had a couple incidents this past summer where I was unfortunate enough to have Wanda discover a couple piles of human waste out on trail, and it resulted in Wanda and I jumping into some pretty cold alpine lakes to have some emergency backcountry bath situations because, yes, I have a dog that likes to roll in feces if she finds it. And time again, out on trail, we were coming across sites where people were just simply taking a dump on top of the ground, on top of the moss, and not burying it. And you had these little toilet paper landmines sitting all over the place. So I decided to do my part and be a responsible hiker and backpacker. And I'm adding a tiny little trowel to my backpacking kit. Now, when I said at the start that a lot of these items that I'm talking about today don't add a lot of weight, this deuce of spades trowel adds 23 grams to my backpacking kit, or 3/4 of an ounce. That is extremely lightweight. Next up, we're going to talk about a piece of gear that has so many multiple uses out on trail. I think this is one of the pieces of gear that absolutely every single backpacker should be carrying in their backpacking kit. And we're talking about an ass pad. Now, myself personally, I use a Thermarest Z-Seat. I like it because it's got that little accordion folding ability. I'm a pretty skinny, narrow guy, so what I do when I'm out on trail and I pull the Z-Seat out to sit down on it is I fold it in half and I get double layer for sitting down. It is a fantastic little cushion for your tush. I don't carry a chair with me out on a backpacking trip. I just carry a little ass pad, and I will find myself a log or a rock or a stump to sit on, and I just fold this guy in half, sit down, and I park my butt right there. I also use this for fanning a fire. So if you hike in places where fires are allowed, you really cannot go wrong with having one of these little foam pads just for fanning the fire and helping get your fire going. I also use my Z-Seat as part of my sleep system. As many of you guys and gals may know, I am an avid hammock camper, and I use a partial underquilt for my hammock. Now, if you're not sure what an underquilt is, on a hammock setup, an underquilt is basically like a sleeping bag that hooks up to the bottom of your hammock and wraps up around you and keeps your backside warm. Now, I use a partial underquilt, so my underquilt only goes to about the back of my calves. So I take my Thermarest Z-Seat and I open it up and I slide it into the foot box of my top quilt, and my feet and the back of my calves rest on here, and that's what keeps my feet and my calves warm when I'm sleeping at night. So this helps me save a little bit of weight out of my sleep system. And while we're talking about weight, the weight of the Z-Seat 2 ounces or 55 grams. Now there are tons of different brands of little foldable foam seats out there. You don't have to necessarily get the Thermara Z seat, but that is what I use. I think carrying a foldable little seat like this is something that every backpacker should have with them. Another piece of gear that I think everybody should have with them out on trail is one of these guys here. This is my little homemade Reflectix koozie. Now, Reflectix is basically just hot water tank insulation. You can basically pick this up anywhere you can pick up hot water tanks. All I've done is I basically just made a little rudimentary pouch, and I use this for my cook system. I put all of my rehydrated meals into Ziploc freezer bags, and after I add my boiling water to the freezer bag, I take my food and I put it into this Reflectix koozie. Now, over the course of a multi-day backpacking trip, if you were carrying a bunch of these little pre-packaged rehydrated meals, the packaging of these alone is going to add up to quite a bit over time. So breaking your food down into individually packaged meals in Ziploc freezer bags and then just carrying one koozie to rehydrate your food is going to end up saving you a bunch of weight over the long haul for a longer backpacking trip. So if you're like myself and you like doing these 4 to 5 day backpacking trips, I definitely suggest looking at making yourself up a quick little Reflectix koozie. They don't add a lot of weight. Mine here adds about 2 ounces or 56 grams to my backpacking kit. And in the long haul, it ends up saving me a couple ounces when it comes to my food for a multi-day trip. This next piece of gear we're going to talk about, I will forewarn you guys, this piece of gear here is a bit of a pricey item, but there is a reason why I think that this is an essential piece of gear and one of those pieces of gear that I think everybody should be carrying in their backpacking gear loadout, because one of the things that is absolutely worth spending the money on is safety. And one of the essential pieces of safety gear I think everybody should be carrying with them on a backpacking trip is a 2-way satellite communication device. Now, I may get some flack from this because some people have been backpacking for years and never carried one and never had an incident. And if that's you, that's fantastic. But one of the common things that comes up after every single incident that ever happens where somebody gets lost or somebody gets stranded or something bad happens out on a backpacking trip, the common thing that is always said is, I never thought it would happen to me. Myself personally, I carry a DeLorme inReach unit. I'm not sitting here trying to push the inReach on anybody. I know that there are tons of different brands and makes out there now for these 2-way satellite communication devices. If I'm ever out on a backpacking trip and I run into the situation where something comes up and I'm in a situation where I need help and I can't get myself off trail, I can hit that SOS function and I have 2-way communication with a crew that's going to come out and get me. It's going to send them my GPS signal, and it's going to make sure that I get myself off trail and I get out alive. I may get a little bit of flack from some of the purists out there who think that relying on electronics out on a backpacking trip is a massive mistake, but I just look at the fact that we're in 2021. The technology in these little units here is amazing. I think that this is one of those pieces of gear that no matter what the cost, I think everybody should be carrying one out on a backpacking trip. Or if you backpack in groups, I think you should have at least one of these little units out with your group if you go out on a group backpacking trip. Yes, these are a pricey thing to look into, but like I said, one thing that you cannot put the price on is safety. Now, while I've been rambling on about some of the gear that I think everybody should be carrying with them out on a backpacking trip, if there's any gear that I didn't talk about and you guys think people should be carrying in their kit on a backpacking trip, drop it in the comments down below. I always love hearing what you guys have to say down in the comment section. But when you guys are done watching this one, and if you guys are looking for some hiking and backpacking tips, head over to this playlist that I put together for you guys. As always, guys, I am Matty. Thank you guys so dang much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.